Um, how I would describe my work to a person or to an audience who hasn't seen my work yet would be saying that actually it's text based. I do text based performances, text based performative installations, and also text based installations. I mean, that means that I always start with a text and some elements in the text turn into visual elements, to objects, to tableau vivants, or to movements. And I'm very interested in chronopolitics, time politics, especially queer chronopolitics, and also Southwest Asian, Middle Eastern politics, chronopolitics. And these are the pillars, basics of my work. And lately, I'm very also interested in Middle Eastern science fiction, speculative fiction, and also television shows, TV shows in Turkey, how mass media has been used for certain political discourses through entertainment. I really delve into the late modernities and also how my upbringing was influenced by that because I had a very I used to be Muslim and I had a religious upbringing, but we were also secular. So this dilemma that most of the Westerners wouldn't understand within their perspective of Islam, and also through that I'm also very interested in arabesque music and arabesque culture because my dad used to love, and he still I guess loves, arabesque music, but I used to feel a little bit ashamed by that because it was not Western and it was like really Eastern, very rooted in the history of Turkey. And that was something that I started to allow myself to like. And I'm really like now when I go for a walk, I definitely listen to Arabic music, and I really use the stories and the music or the sounds that are used in this genre. And I also use a lot of repetition while delving into the the different idiosyncrasies of arabesque music. The name Gucci came because of Microsoft Word. Because as my name is from Turkey, Microsoft Word doesn't get that name and always corrects my name as Gucci. So I took that name as my Western name. And it also says a lot about the default settings, default understandings of such programs that are mostly, maybe usually designed in the West. That also, of course, applies to, for instance, my friend Art.
My friend Anna Friis, they're working with VR technology, and they has been telling me that within VR scanners, certain body types or bodies with wheelchairs are very hard to scan because the programmers of these scanning programs don't count such bodies as reality, that which is very sad. So this the exclusion and discrimination and problems that we face in this reality, of course, mirrors itself, maps itself onto this virtual reality as well. So, in a way, it's similar that how certain programs, how certain default systems see certain bodies as, or certain identities as valid and the others not. So my choice of being non-binary also relates to that. I don't feel as this or that. I feel as many, and that's why I use the pronoun they, and that's why I use different names. And as a joke, I also took Gucci Chang as my other name, which recently, actually, to be honest, I'm going more with my name, Göksu Kunak. So, but it was a period that I was just finding this hilarious and decided to use this autocorrected name as well. Regarding the props and stage design, or also the costumes that I'm using in my performances and installations, I would say there are several things that influence certain choices. One of them is the morning TV variety shows that I was mentioning in Turkey, because in these shows, for instance, supposedly unrelated objects may be gathered, like a skeleton model next to a mini Segway or cooking materials, and there's a hospital bed, and there's a band there who sings and also plays, because in these, the dramaturgy of these shows is very interesting, in the sense that it's very hybrid, and one thing in a neoliberal speed happens one after another. So this is an aspect that I use in my performances, also when it comes to choosing certain objects. Another thing is, like, because of biopolitics, and also my mom and dad are both doctors, I'm interested in the utensils, the tools that doctors use, or the corsets or Botox or other mouth openers, like certain objects that create DIY bodily modifications. That's something that interests me. My work is very political, maybe not always into your face, and maybe sometimes with abstraction, but the texts that I write are political, and the context, which is mostly in relation to heteronormative patriarchal structures and the criticism of these structures. So yeah, as I've said, it's political per se, but I cannot say that I do activism. I think social activism is a totally different engagement, and it's extremely hard. I find it extremely hard, and what I do is not activism, it's art, but it has an important political ground. And I do believe that for me, for instance, when I was growing up, or when I was a young adult, certain artists' works changed my political perception of this world. So I do believe that art can, yes, help to change the world, because I had that change in myself, and I also saw that change in other people. Because it just shows you another reality, or it like in a cliche way, it also makes you question other ways of beings. One thing I need to clarify, I guess, is also, I used the words a lot, the East and the West and the Middle Eastern politics, and I use such binaries and such strong wordings on purpose, because in Turkey we grow up with this knowledge of, like, Turkey is a bridge between the East and the West. So, and as we are Middle Eastern, of course, the US politics in the region, or how Europe or Germany produces certain weaponry, and how this affects the region, is something that I'm very sensitive about, and that I'm that I put in my work, and I use also mockery around these subjects. And When it comes to language and the performances, for me, I mean, of course, English is a colonial language, so we all have. As a writer, it was and is important to know a language well, but at the same time, I on purpose use hybrid Creole languages. And one of the things that I love about the mixed language that is spoken in Berlin between Turkish and German, like sentences are very mixed. That's one thing that I also face myself after 10 years of living in Berlin. And similarly, for instance, like a very mixed language in Beirut, for instance, when I visited Beirut, hearing a sentence beginning in Arabic and then turning into French and ending in English. I mean, of course, we need to think about the colonialist and Orientalist past, but at the same time, that's the language living there, and I find it very interesting how people find their own way of hacking the hegemonic languages. So yes, in my performances and in my texts, I make mistakes on purpose, or I use spoken language in the way that I take from the advertisements or the streets, and using this hybrid language is important for me. And considering your question about Amanda Gorman and her translator, yeah, I mean, certain experiences I think can only be reflected through other people who have similar experiences. And in terms of Amanda Gorman's texts, that really reflects a certain existence in considering racism in the US. Therefore, choosing a white translator, yes, I agree that that might not reflect the experience and might not reflect what the language really aims to. For instance, when the Time Regulation Institute was published in English, the first translator was a person from Turkey. And the version that I have read in English, 2013, was translated by 2 US American translators. And I think they did a very good job. But of course, I'm also thinking, how is it really possible to reflect what Ahmet Hamdi Tanpınar was trying to say, but like it seems like they have done a good job. But I think such questions and problems should be viewed in localities and how local political environments are being shaped by what. When it comes to strong influences for my work, I mean, TV is one of them. Yeah, as a kid, as a teenager, I was watching TV, and I don't watch it anymore, but the pop culture really influences me. I also wrote my master thesis in art history in relation to pop culture. And besides that, the book The Time Regulation Institute by Ahmet Hamdi Tanpınar, that is a speculative fiction book that goes into the mockery of the modernization in Turkey. That book is an influence. Or Testo Junkie by Paul Preciado has also changed a lot in my perception. Besides that, Meg Stewart's pieces, a lot of performance pieces that I watch have changed my life and my perception and my work. Matthew Barney, Ahmet Öğüt, Banu Cennetoğlu, one film that I watched, Hem on Rye. The awkward timing in this film was very influential for me when I was working on Anakara, the piece that I performed at Zofinsele, and that now I in different forms. I performed the piece in various places. And Asiya Wadud, an amazing poet from Brooklyn. Her work is very influential for me. And Hazavuzu from Turkey, a very interesting performance group. Ibrahim Mahama. I mean, there are a lot of names that I can name right now. Yeah, I guess that's the end of this session, and thank you so much for listening to me, and also giving this space. Yeah, have a wonderful life. Hope you are well. Hope. Turkey is a bridge between the East and the West. Do not keep it to yourself. Remain alert. Have a safe day.